Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for our November 9th session. I need a motion, please, to go into special session.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We have an approval of a resolution to enter into a water line relocation agreement with Hopewell LLC.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move for the approval of resolution with Hopewell Road LLC authorizing the institution of attached water line relocation agreement to, one, relocate the existing 8-inch water line, two, eventually grant, convey a perpetual and permanent easement via a separate water line easement agreement, which will reflect the new location of said easement, and three, vacate the existing easement. The parties understand and agree that the existing water line currently exists as a conduit through the property, serving only adjacent properties, and it does not currently provide public water service to the property. The provisions of this agreement and the performance of the design, review, and installation contemplated hereunto shall not, in and of itself, provide the developer with any right to public water service for the property.
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks, Nancy.
Great job, Nancy.
All right, moving into our work session. Up front, we have the grant and programs opportunity for community growth. We have Soren from Panama Realtors. Join us.
Is this want me to sit right here? Or?
Yes.
Or you could sit right there.
Which one would you like to see?
I'll take the invitation. I'll sit here. This is great. Good to see you all.
Hi. Hi.
Hi,
to see you.
thanks. Well, good day, and Madam Mayor and council members, I appreciate the opportunity to be here with all of you and give an update and share some information about our association and hopefully the creation of a partnership moving forward for a way that we can work together to benefit our joint community here. Joining me here as well, I'd like to introduce our association president, Craig Harshman, and he's also the owner of Hagerstown Management Corporation, and also our association's legislative chair, Michael Stanford, and owner of CES Properties.
Yeah, we don't know that.
I feel like he should have given me the introduction. Glad, thanks for both of you for being here. So I will get started by giving some information about our association, then I'll dive into what I'm hoping to share with all of you today. So first I want to just update you and give you information about who we are. Who are the Panama Realtors? One small little thing to point out is we actually have been undergoing a rebranding process over the past year. We've got a fancy new logo, and we've actually gone through a name change. Previously we were the Panama Regional Association of Realtors Incorporated, and we figured that's a bit of a mouthful, so let's reduce it and keep it simple. We're the Panama Realtors. So at this point in time, we have over 950 Realtor members and affiliate members at our association. It's an all-time high, record high for our group. And our members belong to and live in and serve the communities of Washington County, as well as Franklin and Fulton counties in Pennsylvania. As far as the split of our membership, it's about 50%. 50% of them reside and work in Pennsylvania primarily, and 50% in Maryland. And our association provides education, services, and products to its real estate professionals in the area. As far as the local association itself, it's one of approximately 1,200 state or local realtor associations across the entire country, and all of us fall under the umbrella of the National Association. And it also happens to be the National Association is the largest trade association in the country with over 1.5 million members nationwide. And something that hopefully we'll get into as a segue here is that realtors, most people don't realize this, but the association itself and its members are among the most active and engaged advocacy groups in the nation, both in local and state and national issues. And so we're excited to be able to do that. And really the whole reason that I wanted to come here today is I wanted to share and hopefully see this as a brainstorming opportunity, the start of a conversation. And I realize too that in discussing and sharing these ideas, I'm not just only talking to you as the elected representatives, but also the city staff who I hope to be able to work with and share some ideas and suggestions and ways we might be able to move forward together. So first I want to direct you to it. I'm not going to spend too much time because I know you can't read this, but this is a website. It is the public facing side of the website that any member of the community, including yourselves, can go to, and you can find a whole plethora of information. It's the realtorparty.realtor. We have our own domain. Under one of the tabs of programs and grants, which I'm going to go through and explain and highlight a few of these, There's information about what those are and how to qualify for them, as well as examples of past programs that have been approved and have worked and have been successful in communities around the country. Additionally, there's research opportunities and tools. There are brochures and there are pamphlets and there are books that are on there, PDF files you can download that 50-plus pages long that explain different things and give ideas and suggestions. So I highly recommend to all of our association members and to the community to look at this and see if there's anything that sparks an idea, and hopefully we can find a way to move forward with that. And as cute and creative as this is, I understand now that it doesn't show up very well, so I'm not going to go through and read it other than just that it gives some examples of some fun things that are done around neighborhoods and communities around the country. And specifically, those are revitalization projects, those are placemaking projects, those are fair housing classes and opportunities, those are housing opportunity workshops, those are a whole wide range of from rural to urban development projects. And so realtors and communities are engaging each other, and this program has really been around for only a few years where we've been highly involved at the level that we are now. This may be more information than you want, but nationwide, our association had increased its dues a few years back to raise money specifically for this grant program with the intent to help realtors engage their communities as an important and integral member of that community with their unique perspective. And so we're seeing successes around the country with that. So I want to get down to the nitty-gritty and highlight a few top-level grants and their amounts so that you guys have an idea of some of the things that we're talking about here. So some of the grant categories that I wanted to highlight, number one is a fair housing grant, and there are two different levels, a $1,500 grant and a $5,000 grant. Examples of something that you might be able to do with that, you can do a workshop, for instance. It could be a public workshop where you can engage the community. You can talk about fair housing laws and make sure they're educated and they know what their rights are as citizens, what the federal law is regarding fair housing. And it's a chance for us to bring in guest speakers, for instance, to highlight and talk about these important topics. There are not only just education, but it can be part of a community marketing plan if you want to reach out to the community and engage them on the issue too. Another grant is placemaking grants. Placemaking grants, there are a wide range of ways that you can do that, but some fun examples that you can do. It could be creating a new space, a public space like a trail or a walking area. It could be creating things like a pocket park somewhere. It can be creating a dog park, whatever it may be. There are things that you can do. And I realize that the city already has a lot and really is successful in having these community spaces, but this is an opportunity to create other additional ones around the area. Housing opportunity grants. This one has three different ranges of $1,500, $5,000, and $10,000. And this can go, again, from a wide range of things. We can be very creative here of how we would try and implement this in the community. It might be something as simple as, let's put on a housing workshop where we can talk about and address issues that first-time homebuyers may have and help get them acquainted with what the housing industry looks like in our area, in our community, and reach out particularly to underserved parts of the community that may not know or may not have had previously high levels of success of getting into a home for the first time. That may be one area we want to start. It could be talking about it from a revitalization standpoint. How do we talk about and highlight different things going on in ways that we might be able to reinvest in new opportunities in the community? It can be to not only house that and provide that in that targeted audience, but even working with schools, for instance, in the school district and being able to talk to graduating seniors about the importance of home ownership and things that they can do to start preparing for that and looking ahead down the future. Because we do see home ownership as one of the most important privileges that we have and most important investments we can make in our lifetime. Smart growth grants. Again, this one, $1,500 and $5,000 grants that would be available there. These can be things like walkability and improving walkability and safety in a neighborhood, in a community. It can be with things about planning for transportation needs, education needs, things that might impact holistically the entire community. Again, that's a very broad paintbrush there and a lot of things that you can do with that. But the idea is that all these things are very integral to having a healthy community and a vibrant community. And so trying to figure out how we can grow in a smart way and be forward-thinking and not just looking to rectify the past, but how can we move forward and create a new future and plan accordingly and have growth strategies that we're thinking 10 and 20 years out. Those grants can also be to help award, for instance, if the city were to have a planning session about a city master plan, for instance, bringing in somebody to help and assist with that from time to time might be an opportunity. And I actually don't know where the city's at with its planning process on that, but if that ever comes up, you know, we'd love to be a partner in helping fund to get somebody here to provide any information you would need. State and local growth polling. In this one, there's no specified amount there because the total amount is covered by our national association. I've done this in the past at a previous association on the other side of the country, and I can say it was really awesome, an awesome opportunity to do growth poll, to survey members of the community and to identify issues and things about what they see in the community, what their interests are, not just housing-related things as well, but how they feel about the growth and the level of growth, the economic viability, jobs that are there, things like that. But again, this is very holistic. It's all these things that we know impact our community, that we might be able to get that information, and most importantly, to get that information into you as decision makers so that you guys can make educated decisions about what's going on within the community. So those are just a few of the grants that I wanted to ensure that I have time to highlight with all of you here. And the examples I gave are not exhaustive or exclusive. There are so many other ways, and we can be creative in trying to figure out how to bring these dollars into our community and help out with that. You guys may be familiar with the Center for Community Progress, and our National Association does have a partnership with them, and there's a new grant that's coming online for the coming year. I don't have a lot of details about it. They're finalizing that, but probably within the next six to 8 weeks, I'll have more information. But it is going to be under the Transforming Neighborhoods grant, where that they would partner, and we'd be able to partner with the Center for Community Progress and be able to talk about and highlight areas and parts of neighborhoods that need the most help, and see what we can do to lift those communities up. And so I'm happy to answer any questions about some of those grants. I didn't list every single grant that we have, but some of the ones that are more growth focused that are on there. I'll also point out that for these grants, the person who would apply for it would be a staff member from our association, probably me, that would apply for the grant. So you don't have to worry about staff spending hours trying to figure out how to go through the application process. Really, the nitty-gritty of it is if we can come together and find and identify opportunities where we can collaborate and bring these dollars into our community, I would happily sit down with any and all of you, as well as the staff members, and try and work through those details. And once we've got a game plan together, we'll apply for the grant. And once we have those grant funds, we can move forward with it. I glossed over a lot of stuff, but does anyone have any questions about any of those things?
I don't have any questions, but I do think that a good idea would be for us to share our strategic plan and our goals that we just created. So to see like what we have come up with and, you know, put in a beautiful format. And so you can see where you can apply these grants and where we can work together. So
Awesome.
kind of like the crossover between the two. So we just finalized that, you know, last week. So, or the mayor did actually. So
Great.
I think that would be a good place to start. It gives you the different categories, and because this is excellent to be able to layer on these grants with what we offer and what we're trying to do, and it just makes complete sense. So
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, because you hit on a lot of things, like we've talked about different, like pocket parks, or especially with some of the blight removal we have going on, and so I think there's definitely opportunities we could take advantage of. So,
Great.
I'm glad you came.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And like I
Yeah.
said, this is just an introduction to what we have, but I do look forward to those future conversations and being able to collaborate and offer resources wherever possible. And not setting the grants aside too, anything that we can do to help the community, as far as, obviously, we have a lot of information about housing, the housing inventory and what the housing situation looks like, and we're always happy to share and provide that with the city and the public. It is publicly available, so we are happy to help wherever we can.
Yes, glad you came.
Thanks, appreciate it.
We spoke months ago about all these good opportunities. I was like, it'll be a shame to just you and I have a conversation and not spread it to the public. So this is good stuff.
Great.
Thank you.
thanks for bringing Mike. Really, the real highlight
Yeah.
of this.
It was a huge trip.
Yeah, hey, thanks for your input, Mike.
He's my backup here, so. A muscle. All right, thank you.
Thanks,
everybody.
Soren. Good to see
Thank
you.
you.
It's good to see you as well.
Okay, all right. Up next, we're having a conversation in mayor and city council about the helicopter at the Vietnam Memorial. So we have some packet information here, some of the letters that we have received. We got an email, but they are attached here. So last time we left off with needing to have a conversation, so we're here to have a conversation.
So, Brian, you're more than welcome to come up to the table. I know everybody got to see the mock-up of how the helicopter would actually look at actual size that Rodney had done. You don't see Rodney, I guess he's off, but thought he might be here. I gotta admit, it doesn't look obnoxious in any way, shape, or form to me. I think it would be a hell of an addition to that memorial, and I believe that the general public would support it and like to see it.
I do have a question. I think that my concern, and you know, I've been supportive of this monument, and I believe in its reverence, and I've always been supportive of it. My biggest concern is that my house is across the street from the Korean War Memorial. So if we allow this here, then that means that we would allow it everywhere, at every single site. And I think that that is my thing. Like, we couldn't just, and then we couldn't just say it, yes, for you, right? Because it's a fine spot, and then not approve it for somewhere else. And we couldn't also, you know, like, then just change the zoning right afterwards if we grant this for that spot. So I think that that's my concern, is that if we allow, and it's what we always think about all the time, you know, if we allow it for one, we have to allow it for everywhere. So I think that that's my hesitation for this project.
So you believe that the Korean War veterans would like to have a helicopter?
No, I'm not.
Oh.
No, I don't know. I mean, but the thing is that what if there's something else, you know? What if there's another symbol that's important, you know? And I understand, but I think that that's the thing, you know, like, where do we stop? Like, that's my hesitation, so.
I think that the Korean War monument, I doubt very seriously if they're gonna be doing anything else over there, because they're all in their late 80s, pushing 90, a lot of them are. And actually their chapter's probably gonna be faded out over the next year or two, probably.
And there's other
And there's-
sites, though. There's the Medal of Honor, there's the Medal of Honor Triangle in the Jonathan Street community. I mean, there's
Which is
several
beautiful.
other, it is,
Yeah.
and I think that's,
Well deserved.
I think that's my only thought process, is that, you know, if we allow it this way, if we say yes, then we have to continually say yes.
So you think that there's some relevance? I mean, where your house is located, and housing there in general, okay?
Yeah. I'm just using it as an
There,
example.
yeah, but, you know, that's a far cry from, you know, the back of the houses from Prospect down the hill and across the street and back another probably 150 feet, I would think. Behind some trees, and, I mean, I think we're apples and oranges when it comes to other sites, but, you know, I'd love to see a horse at the Buffalo Soldier Memorial. I think that would be awesome. But I mean, I just don't see how it could, you know, could actually diminish anybody's perception of property value or anything else. I just don't get it.
I don't think it's the property value thing. I think it's just the,
Yeah.
you know, it's just the,
Not at all.
yeah, I don't think it's the property value at all. I think it's just that, again, if we move forward with this, then we have to make sure that we understand that this is a possibility at many other, and not even just a memorial site. It could be anywhere in
Well,
the city.
I mean, it's, you know, it's anything logical, then, you know, we would probably do anyway, but,
Okay.
you know, I mean, this, to to me is, again, apples and oranges to just about any place else, even out of Martinsville Park. I mean, you know, the Veterans Memorial out there is actually a rather small space now, with everything they have. But, I mean, this is, I don't think there's any comparison to this site to any other sites, but, so.
I mean, I think that depends on who you are. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at letters, and we have letters from folks that live directly in that neighborhood, that live in this city, saying, hey, we have serious concerns about this in the neighborhood that we live directly in. That it clearly changes the view shed of the properties that we live in your city. And we have letters from a number of individuals that do not live in this city, that clearly say, yes, please go ahead and do this, that don't live in that neighborhood, that don't live in this city. I think we have given great deference to that in any number of matters that we've given consideration to. I think we do it right now with some of the projects that we have on our plate currently. So I think for me that poses a concern. I think it's no different than when the folks that you know lived out in the northeast end that said, hey, you know, we'd like changes to our traffic, direction flow. I think about when we changed the direction, I think it was Brown Avenue, right in the vicinity of this at one time. You know, we gave deference to folks that live directly in that neighborhood on those matters before we make those decisions. And so, you know, we're hearing from that neighborhood's group. I'd like to hear from more folks in the neighborhood about it that probably have no idea that we're having this conversation, number one. And number two, and so that's the public side. Me personally, you know, when I say it's a matter of perspective, I have great reverence for the Hager House. To me, that is a end-all, be-all part of our community's culture, the city's culture. And when I said at our last meeting that I wanted to be able to see a field rendition of this, I want to know what that visual impact is, not from the street side, but from the Hager House, because I think it could change the view shed, you know, of that particular historic property. And if it does, I want to understand that. And so for me, I was not envisioning, you know, a picture on a piece of paper. I'll give you an example. When we did the tower system when I was on the county, down on Keep Trist Road, there were folks down there concerned about the tower height. And so what they did is the balloon test where they go out, and we went out and, you know, they put a balloon so high in the air and they say, hey, you know, here's about the height of the tower. So I guess I envisioned as part of this exercise, what we would have had happen would be, one, there'd be a balloon height out there in the field. I want to see what that looks like in the air. We're not talking about putting a structure on the ground, we're talking about putting it up in the air. I want to be able to drive over to the Hager House, I want to look across that field at the backs of the trees. I want to know which trees are coming down and what that view shed is going to look like from that historic, iconic structure in this city. Very important to me. And number two, I want to be able to understand scale of what that's going to look like. So I may not be able to see that too much from a tree position on a piece of paper, but if I can see, you know, those two balloons up, so to speak, and see what they are in the air and what that view shed is going to be, then I can have a better visualization of what I'm being presented on paper, what it'll actually look like out in the field. So those are my two concerns. And I don't have any intention of going any further or considering it any further until those things happen.
Can we take a better survey, kind of like what we did with the one-way streets that I regret, it's very good, but, can we take more of a survey of the neighborhood? I mean, can we, in order to get a better idea so everyone understands and makes it?
Sure. Well, I think what we need to do before we take a survey of the neighborhood is we need to address Kristen's issues and be able to have something to present to the people that we do
Sure.
a survey.
Okay, that's fine.
To have an actual.
So we have the two-scale picture, but you want one from the other side.
No, what I'm saying is, I see the scale picture, and I can certainly say, between your scale picture, between the one I had, the one that we were presented with, I have very differing perspectives on what those impacts look like. For me, I think that a simple balloon test is a pretty tried and true methodology to show what the size and nature of such a structure would look like out in the actual field. Where you simply say, hey, this thing's gonna be 68 feet long, I think that's what it is from tip to tip, and say, okay,
57 feet,
okay, 57 feet, and you say,
that's with the blade.
right, so you send the balloon up and you say, hey, here's the two ends of the spectrum and what that's going to be.
It's gonna be 20
out in
foot
the
off the
field.
ground.
I don't, whatever the distance is.
Whatever, sure, I got you.
And then I can stand there and say,
understand what
hey,
you're saying, I'm not,
see
I'm not
that.
opposed to that, yeah. I didn't know the trees were coming down to make room for this, I thought there was
I don't-
plenty of space back there.
No, there shouldn't be any trees come down at all.
I didn't think so.
Yeah, I don't know the
I'd like
degree
to
of
say
that
one
detail.
thing. I found out about this through the newspaper, that you all were gonna be discussing that, about the helicopter. That's why I'm here. You know, I'm hoping you're not gonna make a vote tonight.
No, no.
Okay.
No.
And, Kristen, the last time I was here, you more or less asked for a better scaled, photo, you know. The one that I did present to you all was, I told you at the time, was not proportionate to the site. I'd like to send this one around for you all to look. And that is actual. That cost them quite a bit to have that done. Actually, pass them around. There's some for everybody.
Connie, are you gonna be able to,
I need to
is
see
the,
diagrams.
do you have the funding to be able to
I
engineer
just
the
wanna see it from
project?
diagrams.
Pardon me?
Do you have the funding to be able to engineer the whole project to get it off the, will you be able to do that, or are you gonna need to ask for
Well,
the city to?
no, I'm not asking the city for no money. You know, I'll make that clear. I made it clear the last time, you know. I mean, if it means that I have to go back into fundraising to make this possible, I will go back into raising funds. I didn't have no problem raising, you know, enough to put that beautiful project over there, you know. We don't have, you know, a lot of leftover money in order to acquire a UH-1 shell, you know, is roughly $45,000. Did everybody get one?
Yeah.
We're not supposed to keep them.
Oh,
I can keep it?
Yes.
Really?
I was like,
Not that involved.
No, not that one.
Pass them back down.
oh, I was like, this looks like the same one, over and over.
No, actually, because I know Christian said the last time I was here
Can you wipe it off?
that things wasn't in proportion, which they weren't. I mean, we just Photoshop a picture and put it there. We didn't realize about, you know. But back there where the new Arboretum Trail is, there's a big flat area right there, you know.
Yeah, I didn't think that there were any trees coming down.
Yeah,
But
there
listen,
shouldn't be,
I-
and to answer your question about from the Hager House, you will not see that from the Hager House.
I wouldn't think, you know,
There's
I
no
was
way
thinking
you
the
could
same
see
thing,
it.
but I was actually leaving here when this is done and going over there to check it out, because I didn't think you could, but now I don't know if the leaves on the trees, that makes a difference or not in the winter time, but,
Yeah.
you know, I mean,
I mean, the bank,
I'm
I
all
just-
in favor of doing anything to answer concerns with the neighborhood and with council members, you know, to get the right information to make a decision, before just saying no, so.
Basically,
So
I
I'm all
wanted to
good
get,
with
I basically wanted to get back on the agenda because after being here on October 5th, I know that we needed to address, you know, the proportionate size of the thing to the monument. Now that I have that,
Even this, I mean, this is significantly different than the one that our staff came up with, too.
I also have
So-
one that they came up with.
Yeah. But I think Kristen's right. I mean, the only way we're gonna know is to go out and look at it. you know.
Yeah, yeah, and put the balloons up and, you know, so that way we know and we can maybe, get a satellite shot down or something? Maybe see-
Actually, the bank behind our project right now has been chopped down. So it's wide open for you to look and actually visualize. That's basically what it would look like down underneath, or in the back where that flat area is. Now, again, that's not proportionate.
Yeah.
That's got it oversized.
Okay.
The one up at the Carlisle War College is on 4 pylons. They're 10 foot and 12 foot. In the back, they're 12 foot, they're 10 foot in the front, so it has a little
Angle.
lean. Yeah, actually, people walk under it,
And Mayor, can we get Rodney to put together something before it gets cold, so we can go over and check?
Yeah,
It's already cold.
Yep.
Yeah.
and I would agree
not today.
to,
Real cold.
I would agree too to have, survey from the residents in that area. Because again, it's important to get their feedback. And we had another letter that came after October from Neighborhood First Group, also reiterating their concerns from the initial letter in August. So I think it's important
Is that-
to spread that message and at least get everybody's opinions before we,
Yeah.
Are they still complaining about the lights?
I don't know.
No.
No?
This,
I was gonna
this
say,
letter
we
in our
put-
packet is
We
specifically
went
for
ahead and
helicopter.
put shields on the 2 lights that were, actually showing up on the Welcome Home Park. There was a bright light, but it didn't shine into the street, and it's because of the angle of the box light, that we put on each side. We now have shields on there, so that has blocked that down tremendously. Yeah.
Yep, let's get all the information and then do a survey. and
Some
then-
next
yeah.
steps.
Okay.
Yep.
So we will be in touch after we do that.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for the picture.
All right, up next we have Antietam Fire Company, Captain Sprecher and Company.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Make it short. Most of you know me, Jim Sprecher, Antietam Fire Company Captain, Chairman of the Board, and Robert Davler is our treasurer. The membership of the Antietam Fire Company have come before you today to speak about our mortgage the city of Hagerstown holds on our station at 790 Potomac Avenue. We're here to ask that our mortgage be forgiven or the remaining balance be turned into a grant. The Antietam Fire Company was formed in 1808, incorporated in May of 1835. The old station located on Summit Avenue dated back to 1895. We've always taken pride in being proactive, maintaining our building and the training of our volunteer staff. Currently, we have 25 volunteer members on our 2021 riding roster, and 5 members of our current career staff started at Antietam Fire as volunteers. In the history of the fire service in Hagerstown, there was never a fire station north of the railroad tracks running through town. In 2010, the city had a CIP project number CO 731 for a North End fire station at an estimated cost of $3.1 million. At that time, Antietam Fire, being proactive, started looking at several locations. We found the building for sale at 790 Potomac Avenue. Then the fire chief, Kid Dietrich, Antietam Fire Company staff toured the building, looked at the pros and cons of the building and location, and decided to make an offer of $600,000, which was accepted by the owner. Antietam Fire looked at several options for financing. Bank rates were extreme and decided to approach the city about financing as they had done this in the past. Antietam Fire met with Bruce Zimmerman, Kid Dietrich, Al Martin, and Michelle Berker, and came up with a loan financing plan of a loan of $600,000 over 30 years at an interest rate of 3%, which was submitted to the then city council and approved. Antietam Fire has never missed a payment, and as of October 1st, 2021, has paid $311,143.26 total in interest and principal back to the city. We've always maintained the building on Potomac Avenue in good condition. We just completed a $32,000 project to redo the roof. And we've got another project that we just approved of $13,000 to change that green fascia that looks like a used car dealership and change that to a
Why'd you
different.
look at me when you said that, Jim?
How'd you know I was looking at you? Some of us remember that as Middlecoff Chrysler back in the day.
Yes.
But we're gonna change that to a different color to brighten it up back there a little bit.
So what you're telling me is that instead of the city spending $3 million plus, the city has a fire station across the railroad tracks in the north end for $300,000.
Correct.
And sounds like a deal.
Yeah.
I think I'm okay
Sounds
with
like a
that.
deal.
Sounds like a deal.
That was easy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Approved.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for all
I
you do.
hear you guys all the time.
So it's already been introduced.
We go down your street,
I know you
regardless
do.
of the day or night, we blow the air
I
horn,
know
that
you do.
extra amount
I
won't
feel
buy
like
us
that's
out.
actually a thing.
I think that's a love thing.
Is that a love thing?
That you know we're there and we're working for you. So, thank you.
Thank
Appreciate all
you.
you guys do.
Thank you,
Thank
Jimmy.
you. All right, review of process for CDBG capital project funding requests for nonprofit organizations.
Good evening.
Welcome.
I invited Randy Catlett, our chair of our Hagerstown Loan Review Authority, to join in this discussion. Randy's been working with our previously known as the HRA, now known as the HLRA, for many years. I think Randy mentioned it dates back to 1991. So Randy has been participating since that time in administering our loan programs. And it's directly related to what I wanted to talk about tonight with the mayor and city council is our process for offering CDBG capital project loans to area nonprofit organizations. So just some quick background on that. Each December, we open up an application period for area nonprofit organizations, and they can apply for CDBG funding in two ways. The way that is most familiar with those nonprofits and to probably our council and mayor is the public service grants. Those are the grants, the budget typically totals each year about $150,000. Those are operational grants for area nonprofits to carry out CDBG activities that meet the CDBG national objectives. Examples are the Community Free Clinic, Holly Place, Girls Incorporated, CAC, Children in Need. Those are I guess, our mainstays in the public service grants. What are more intermittent would be the nonprofit capital project grants for significant rehabilitation activities for nonprofit facilities such as community centers or senior centers or anything like that that would fit in the CDBG eligibility category known as public facilities. In years past and traditionally, and Randy can back this up, I believe the city has typically only offered CDBG public facility funding to nonprofits in the form of a loan. Just after all this time and some recent discussions with the HLRA, I thought it was good to maybe revisit that process to see if we want to continue offering those opportunities in the form of a loan, or is there maybe some alternative options. Some background on the thinking, and Randy can maybe touch on this as well. I think sometimes the loan restriction for nonprofit capital funding, maybe that is difficult for maybe more fledgling nonprofit or nonprofit that may not have the capacity to pay back a loan. I think there's also, again, some pros and cons to look at from the city perspective. If we loan that funding out, certainly the goal maybe in the future, maybe way down the road, is to have that funding repaid. But again, it may be a bit counterintuitive because the nonprofit organization may struggle to pay that back. So we've seen that in some of our loan history with some nonprofits, that there's definitely some that it runs the gamut. Some nonprofit loans have been deferred, 0% interest for years. Some nonprofit loans are active and they pay their loan funds back in payments. Some nonprofits struggle with those payments. So Randy was part of our HLRA discussion, and we thought maybe it was good again to revisit this and look at some possible opportunities. And again, I'm not saying there's one right way or wrong way. From a regulatory perspective, through the Cdbg program, we're not required to offer it in loans or grants. It's hard to research every entitlement Cdbg grantee in the country. My perception is that I believe most Cdbg entitlement grantees that provide nonprofit facility type funding would likely be in the form of a grant. But again, it's hard to pinpoint every entitlement community and research every single activity. So an option I threw out just as a conversation starter here was maybe there could be two options. There could be a loan option for nonprofit requests that are significant repairs, maybe a minimum repair amount of $75,000 or $100,000. Maybe there's an alternative smaller grant option. I think that may help if you have more fledgling nonprofits or maybe nonprofits that don't have the capacity to really budget loan repayment. And again, one other aspect of continuing the nonprofit loans, if we do that, and Randy can attest to this, I think, again, there's been just some variation over time with certain nonprofits maybe get 0% interest loans that are deferred, so there may be a mortgage involved, but the repayment term says you don't need to repay us for 50 years or 40 years, or maybe unless you change use or operation of the facility. And then again, other nonprofit loans are active payments. So there's sort of a few different issues there, and at least wanted to bring this process up and bounce it off the mayor and city council and see if there's any thoughts or suggestions.
That's a lot.
So, I mean, the bottom line is, we have had success with this, and we have had not so successful outcomes with this.
Yes, and I think,
And I don't know where that number is, at least over my experience, let's just say it's 50-50, right? And you clearly list a number of them here that are on the positive 50 side of that, as examples. And it's easy to say, well, this isn't our money, really, you know what I mean? And so, we're more free to gamble. I just have never seen it that way. I tend to lean toward option one simply because of the varied success rate we've had as the safe bet. And I say that because that guarantees investment in the physical structure and not the operational capacity of the entity. And so, much like the first third grant program, you know what I mean? If you lose out, you still have the advancement, you still have the investment in the physical space, that is then marketable. And the reality is, most of the entities that do this do so in areas, in places and buildings that need that physical investment. So to me, like, that's the safest option. I still, though, however, struggle because, like yourselves, I probably want still that option where there are very sound and stable entities that could use a larger sum in a loan framework. But for me, like, I think we have to set a ceiling. In other words, option two kind of says it's a minimum. I don't know whether that's meant to mean like no less than, because I read that as, there's not a lot of funds to begin with, you know what I mean? And so for me, like, I think there should be a ceiling, not a minimum. And again, I think that whatever we do should focus on the physical construct, and certainly applying a consistent process of collection. At least in my tenure, that seems to be one of the oddest things to me is, in all the ones we've had, there doesn't seem to be, well, this one's, good enough for this, and that one's good enough for that. It's like we're hedging, what the credibility of the return is, like a bank, and I just have never seen this as it's supposed to be operated that way. So, Those are my comments.
Any other
I-
thoughts?
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think those are good points, and the thinking and the options, again, they were conversation starters. Again, I think there's pros and cons either way you cut it with grants or loans. The thought was maybe we offer the smaller across-the-board grants, like here's the application process, and you can check, you want the $25,000 grant fund opportunity, but maybe it's a project where maybe they need some more funding, and we can say, here's a minimum that's a 75 or 100,000 opportunity, but we would do that in the form of a loan. And again, I could tweak that or change that if it's just, I guess I'm trying to nail down the decision.
75,000, 25,000 would be the grant portion, 50,000 would be the loan portion.
Correct.
Still get 75,
Yes.
and then whatever loans
Yeah.
do get repaid, at least that way, and it goes back into the program.
Yeah, it's tricky either way, I think you cut it.
It is. Well, you know,
I
I
guess
mean, it's
because-
still the people's money, any way you cut it, so it's just coming from the federal government, that's all.
And Councilman Alshire is correct. We don't have a large funding capacity with this every year. I would say most CDBG budgets that I've looked at public facility type projects in recent years, maybe roughly 100 to 150,000 max is typically what we're looking at in that line item.
But I think it's important for the members of mayor and council to understand that while you hear that number in an annual basis, the volume of funding that we're carrying for those entities that have not repaid the program in whole grows. You know what I mean? And so I think that's my biggest concern. If I recall correctly from past conversation on this, that number has grown to a measurable amount at this point. You know what I mean? That leaves you struggling to recapture, you know, to make it solvent and to make it appear that it's, you know, being collected.
Excuse me, and what number did you have in mind? What number had you researched or heard of?
Well, I didn't research, I just feel like we had a conversation at one point and the number was in the $500,000 range.
Yeah, I'd have to do a lot of digging. That may have also been combined with some of the business loans that were not the nonprofits.
Like revolving loan fund.
Correct, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
definitely a lot of delinquent business loans that may have added to that number if that's probably what's.
And that's, excuse me, and that's why I was asking, because I've been a part of this committee for 30 years. And 50-50, it sounds pretty good, but more than likely, it's probably 80-20. 80 success, 20 on the negative side. And then, of course, when it comes to, you're talking about an organization that isn't earning any money. They're W House, Boys and Girls Club, something of that sort, nonprofit. And when you loan them amount of money and you charge them 3% interest, it's kind of like throwing the baby out with the water, because it's a nonprofit, and I don't think that we should loan these applicants a very large amount. But I think if you're dealing with an amount, $20,000, $25,000, $30,000, and it is the people's money, as you've said, Bob, that is very true, but the money is.
But it makes a significant difference.
It makes a significant difference, especially if it's a fledgling organization, one that has just started. 25,000 would be like $1 million. But when you tell them that it's going to be, you're letting them have this money based upon an interest rate. Well, the reason they're requesting it anyway is because they're having issues and challenges with running this not-for-profit business. So I kind of agree. And back in the day, back in the 90s, we were giving money, forgiven loans. And then we would charge a small interest rate on some other organizations that they didn't pay. We held their structure or their place of business as collateral, and the next thing you know, you're foreclosing.
Which we don't want either.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the criteria that these applicants have to meet is such that we do a pretty good job of deciding who qualifies for these monies. I'm really favor, especially at the time with the mayor having proposed, with the opiate problems we've had. Some of these organizations are trying to address that. They don't have the funds. And this money could go a long way into saving the lives of human beings. Not all the time will it be the money, not all the time will the money be spent as we would hope it would be spent, but there's no guarantee with anything in life.
But in our case, it would be, because we would monitor it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, I
With
put
our-
that in correctly.
With our
yeah.
CDBG funding,
Yeah.
it's for capital projects, we have to make sure it's executed. and
We
done.
understand it.
Yeah,
The
what I'm
gamble
saying is,
side of it.
not all the time does
And we don't
the
get
patient
money out
do what we think should be done, yeah.
for the operational side, correct?
Just the public service grants technically would qualify as more soft cost operational. That's what I mentioned earlier, where like with Community Free Clinic, Senior Living Alternatives, Holly Plays, Girls Inc., Children in Need, those would be considered more operational soft costs. Like the Community Free Clinic program, for instance, I believe they annually receive $50,000 from the public service grant side. That's usually funding their medical lab program. So it's, however you want to cut it, I mean, I don't know if it's in the end paying for it's paying for the
Right, we don't
service
know
of
if it's paying for a
phlebotomy.
salary or whatever.
Correct, so, in Children in Need, it's paying for clothing items, and for the Bridge to Change program, it is actually paying for the coordinator to coordinate the Bridge to Change program. So yes, there are some operational costs that come out of the public service grants. But yes, capital projects, we would strictly make sure it has to be significant rehab for the purpose of the CDBG program. We can't be assisting with small deferred maintenance. CDBG does not allow maintenance, and there's some semantics.
Recurring costs.
Correct. So we're not gonna patch a roof and replace a window that has a broken glass and patch some cracks in a sidewalk. So that's another conversation starter where I said, considering a grant aspect to this, we should probably have a minimum threshold number.
So I ask you, since you've been doing this for 30 years, I mean, what do you think the best way to proceed is?
I concur with Jonathan, he's staff. Of course, I'm a volunteer. But I have a,
You don't get paid, right? We understand that.
yeah,
That's why I'm
yeah,
asking.
that's one of the reasons I was here. See if I can, not just kidding. But, I enjoy what I do, I'm very passionate about it. I was in banking for a number of years, a district manager, several branches. I've seen how money works from various views, delinquency, the whole 9 yards. I like this, especially at this day and time in our global society, in our country, in our municipalities, in our cities. We have a number of our fellow citizens who have encountered problems with all sorts of clothing, substance abuse, and I think you kind of have to put your money where your mouth is. If you're really willing to help, this is how you can assist in these opportunities. A lot of times, it's just articles in the newspaper about what's going to happen and what we're trying to do. But as far as I know, owning several businesses, it always takes a capital. And for nonprofits, that's a big thing. And I think the staff does a great job of seeing that these various organizations meet the criteria, very little ambiguity in there. Yeah, I feel like what Jonathan was mentioning.
John, what's the largest that's been given out?
That's testing.
I don't want to name, I just,
Yeah,
a ballpark.
Probably 200 to 300,000.
300.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care who, just a number. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like there was a $300,000 loan that was part of a gymnasium project years ago for a nonprofit facility.
Okay.
So should we then consider this option for this coming cycle where we would maybe, on our application for the CDBG program for capital projects, offer a $25,000 grant
Right.
for capital improvement? Should we still add a line to say if you need excess of that, would you consider a loan?
I
Is that-
think so.
is that-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or is that
Yeah.
too?
And a lot of times, they probably come, look for grant opportunities as gap finance, gap funding.
And that's
which
what
is what this could offer.
That's what we're targeting, actually, and that's another CDBG item. We want projects that are ready to fund, but maybe they have that $25,000 gap, because we don't want this as seed money, because we can't say, here's 25,000 to commit for your $500,000 project, because I need that funding to move, and we need to make sure there's an actual budget to make that project happen, so.
Yep.
Yeah, gap funding is a old terminology.
Well, I'm an old guy.
Yeah, okay, it goes way back, but that's very true.
So we're agreeable to that. I'll update the application cycle this year to show an option for $25,000 capital grants, and I can still leave an option for loans that still, and again, maybe this changes again after this application cycle. We may get more feedback to see if it works or if it doesn't work. But again, just after doing it for so many years one way and seeing other jurisdictions, just for instance, today, I stumbled on one because I've been looking for other opportunities, or how they have the funding opportunities in other jurisdictions. Providence, Rhode Island just gives out grants for capital projects. There's no loans, so, but their entitlement is $5 million annually, where ours is only close to $1 million.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
thank you very much,
Thank you.
Randy.
Thank you.
You all have a great evening.
All right, Arts and Entertainment District redesignation. Hi, Kitty.
Good afternoon, evening, I guess.
It's dark.
It's dark.
It's nighttime. It's like midnight.
Okay, good night.
Good night. Good night, everybody.
All right, so as you know, the city is working towards redesignation of its A&E district this year. Application is due April 1st, which seems far away, but it's not far away, and there's a lot of steps, and this conversation is sort of the first step in order to move on. Designation happens every 10 years, so that's just what the state sets out as part of their process. While we go through this redesignation process, we have the opportunity to change both the boundaries of the district and also the property tax incentive. So that's what we're here to talk about and get direction from you tonight. We'll start with the boundaries. So in your memo, there's actually two maps. There's the current map, which shows multiple districts kind of layered one on top of the other. And the second map is the one with the blue shading, and that's the proposed boundaries. So just to talk about the proposed boundaries, the reason that we kind of went with this proposal, this better aligns with other designations in the downtown area, including Main Street and the CCMU. It includes assets that are currently A&E enterprises and are currently in the A&E district, which like the Mulberry Lofts and the Massey Building. And it includes assets that could be incentivized to become A&E enterprises, including the old hospital site and the Herald Mail Building. There are three benefits for being within an A&E district. One, we're not going to talk about it all tonight, which is state income tax subtraction modification for the artists, Maryland artists who do work in the district. There's a property tax incentive, which we'll go into detail in a moment, but that's for qualified renovations to buildings within the district. And then there's an exemption from the admissions and amusement, or A&A tax, on qualifying businesses and activities within the district. So activities by property owners, business owners, and artists taking place inside the district, inside the boundaries, are eligible, may be eligible to receive any or all of those benefits. So that's kind of the rundown of why we're heading these boundaries, and would welcome comments, feedback, direction on boundaries.
So I'm looking at the map, and the yellow line says the Arts and Entertainment District, right?
That's the old map, the current map.
The old map. And then one says Main Street, the other one says Downtown Historic District, that's that.
That's
Those
what it is
those
now.
are current, that's the
Right.
current map.
Okay.
And then the proposed is this one?
The one that's got the
Right.
blue, kind of the blue shading, the light blue shading. Yeah, I hope you brought your glasses to read everything.
I'm gonna need to borrow yours.
I know, I can pass them around.
So, I mean, I think, okay, so the blue shading.
Right.
Because I see the black line, and maybe that's where I'm confused.
On the blue thing?
Yeah, am I supposed to take this key over to the next page?
No, there's no.
No, it's just there for
key on here.
comparison
Just blue
purposes.
shading.
So, yeah, look at the blue shading on the
Okay.
second map, and
Right.
that blue shaded
Yeah, I see
area.
that. I was just trying to apply a key to this second page.
So is the blue shading,
The city center
is this,
is the green. The
okay.
green on the
I believe the green,
proposed
and
side.
Is Kathy still here? Kathy's still here, so that came out of her department. I think the green line is the CCMU, correct? Yeah.
It says it up here. It says it here.
Like a shorthand, what the blue is doing on the,
That would
on
be
the
good.
west side of the district, it's where the Main Street and the A&E overlap. And then on the east side, it's where CCMU and A&E overlap. We're proposing to remove the parts of the A&E that went to the north of the CCMU and to the south, because those were added for an incentive that no longer exists, which was to create
Just
artist
straight ahead
housing.
housing, artist housing.
Up in the northeast section.
Right, and the
This like
south-
6-block area.
and the
Correct.
southeast section.
Okay, yeah, because I was looking at the first map and I was like, wow, A&E is really bigger than it should be.
Correct. We had to get, I think,
Okay.
a special exception from the state to have it that large,
Okay.
actually. Yeah,
And that's the primary area that you are shrinking it.
right, yes. And I think
Because that's the
expanding it-
yellow.
Yes, and expanding it to include like the hospital site, which kind of like bumps it out in that
Is that just
vicinity.
the hospital site?
Yes, yeah, that kind of,
So you're making it 2 places?
It's got like a little.
connected by
a little
sidewalk.
tail on the street.
This little thing.
yeah, we might have to make that look better for the state.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I kind of see it, but it looks like 2 different places.
Bring in the parking deck there.
Taking this
Yeah.
Yeah,
All of the hospital.
It could be all hospitals.
I guess that's my curiosity is why you wouldn't include this, at least this portion, which is the old,
The rest of the hospital.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's this
yeah,
thing.
that would make it,
Then it would be more attached.
that'd probably make it better for the state.
Looks the big.
That's king. That's the 5 points.
So why are we keeping all this? What is that? So we're gonna keep this, so this goes in?
And the purpose for keeping it so far to the west in the Washington Street corridor?
Was there existing commercial mixed-use properties that are in the Main Street and/or the A&E district that might have some expectations to be able to take advantage of these programs?
Yeah. Trying to align it as much as we can. Changing the Main Street boundary is a whole different process that we can't really embark on right now, but trying as much we can to align them, because people get very confused. Staff have a lot of checking to do to see if any business, can you apply for this grant? Yes, but not that grant, and just trying to be more consistent.
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm fine with it. Now, I'm glad we understand.
What about this little piece right
Oh
here?
my gosh,
Where you at, Chris?
yeah.
I'm right here at where the cultural
the
trail is
cultural
going to be
trail.
moved to.
Below the cultural trail
Right.
icon.
And there like a little shed there, and there's like it's the backside of the cool little convenience store now, right? Isn't that what that is?
Right.
A little parking lot back there, there's like a little
Which
building.
isn't
It's,
in there now.
it's on the above side of the
Car wash.
I just like to leave that little bit out. I think that the nature of that space is going to change with that project. I mean, it's gonna be on the direct backside of the cultural trail.
Probably the reason it's not in there is because it's not in the Main Street district. Is that true? Yeah.
Okay, well,
That's not
That's weird.
That doesn't mean that it can't be included. It just is probably why it didn't get kind of swept into this
We just,
redraw.
I'm fine.
right here in this little.
With it in or with it out?
Right here.
With what, the little pocket thing?
The part that's not in the Main Street.
Oh, this little tiny thing here? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the space that's sort of across from Potomac Tower, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It was like snook poultry.
Right, right.
Stuff like that.
Yep. I think
And the backside
leave
of
it out.
the
That way you
glass
won't
shop.
change it again.
There you guys go with the boundaries.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
Part two.
So, good, we'll just get the hospital parking area in there, and then that's good, okay. Part two, property tax incentives, so I'm gonna flip the page here. So the property tax incentive is a tax credit on the change in assessed value for renovations to buildings that are used by qualifying residing artists or arts enterprises. tax credit is only on the change in assessed value, not on the full assessed value. Our current incentive is a 50% credit on that change in assessed value over 10 years. And there is in your memo a table that shows what other districts are currently offering. So just so you can see where we stand in the within other A&E districts around the state. We're at the less robust end of things at the moment. Just as a note, the current property tax is 50% tax credit has never been utilized in the 20 years it's been offered. So we've been encouraged by the state and kind of just internally just looking at it going, what can we do to make it more robust so people actually use it? And we get some more arts enterprises doing some renovations. So we've outlined 3 options for you to look at, to consider, with the recommendation to offer a more robust incentive to increase the likelihood of receiving redesignation on the one hand and also to garner investment. So option 1, which is the same incentives as the enterprise zone incentives, but without any reimbursement from the state, is 80% credit in years 1 through 5, and then it goes down 70% in year 6, 60%, 50%, 40%, 30% by year 10. Option 2 is 100% credit for 6 years, and then nothing year 7 through 10. And then option 3 would be just doing nothing and keeping it as it is. For those that like to look at spreadsheets, there's a sort of a case study there so you can kind of see how it plays out. If we look at a case study where someone put it, the assessed value went up $50,000. We're looking at, in the first option, the one that goes down from 80% to 30% over 10 years, the total tax credit from the city over 10 years would be $3,257. In option 2, it'd be $3,006. In option 3, $2,505. So it's not a huge difference from our perspective, but from a, potential developer, it might be more enticing.
10 years is 10 years.
10 years is 10 years.
We're not tied to 10 years either, right?
Say again?
We are not tied to a 10-year benefit, right?
I think that's correct, because I think we can do that, the one that's just for 6 years, and then do nothing year 7 through 10.
I kinda like option 2.
Option 2.
Yeah.
Which one?
Option 2.
That's kind of goes for
100%
6 years, and then nothing after that.
Nothing after that. It's either gotta be that or option 1 with the decreases, where you're 80%.
But it's 80%
I
decrease.
mean, you gotta make the initial worthwhile.
Yeah, I like option 1 better than option 2.
I like option
Especially
1.
comparing.
I like
to-
Denton's.
You like what?
Denton. It's the chart. They gave you a chart. Denton. 100, 100, 100, 80, 80, 60, 60, 40, 40, 30.
I like
Where I
that.
was kind of getting at. If we
Okay,
wanted to
yeah,
try
the
to,
first 3 years, 100, I like that too.
Should have brought my Excel spreadsheet, we could just be crunching numbers right now.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, first 3
I
years.
just-
Well, here's the thing, it
Look
doesn't
at
matter
downtown
if you don't have
Frederick
any
also.
increase in assessed value.
downtown
Right,
Frederick kind of.
right, there has to be a change, yes.
Yeah, it goes 7 years.
Frederick's close,
and
but
it
I like Denton better.
All right, do you guys like Denton?
Yeah, I'm still at option 1, I'm fine.
I like the decrease over time. I mean, I think that
That's
it's,
Denton.
to go from 100% to 0 is a lot.
Yeah, but it's 100%.
Well, yeah, obviously.
I mean, for 6 years.
100% for
yeah.
6 years.
I'm just saying that
Well,
to,
that's the, I mean, the one that does that's the incentive. Catonsville wants you to do a lot more than $100,000 of work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or they want you to do $10 million. Last time I was in Catonsville, I don't quite recall seeing anything. It was probably more than $10 million of work. But
Denton's in
Okay, I'm in
Texas,
for either Denton or option 1, either one.
I like Denton.
Not option 1, I like Denton.
Now, there it is. Denton.
There it is.
Do what Denton does.
Do Denton
Do
does,
Denton
the 3
does.
Ds.
Where's Denton? Never mind.
Denton is 100% for 3 years, 80% for 2 years, 60% for 2 years, 40%, and then 30%. There we
do
go.
what Denton does.
Do what Denton does.
Denton does.
Hashtag.
Good?
I like how we're all
Thank
looking
you.
at one thing. Chris is like, I like Denton. I'm like, what is
Where's
that?
Denton?
Information
It's on the spreadsheet that we're on.
Well, we did.
chart for your health, right?
Back it up before Tuesday night.
Making a
Send an
note to look
email,
up
say I like
Denton.
Denton, everybody go, yes,
Right.
yeah,
I mean, we're all looking at the one spreadsheet, and you're like looking at a totally different thing.
Sure, isn't it?
All right, this will all come back in some resolution format as we get closer, and we do more of the official stuff, but this gives us marching orders to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, temporary lease agreement with the Foundry Pop-Ups.
What else can I do?
Good evening. So this is a lease agreement review with the Foundry Pop-Ups for 6 North Potomac Street. This will be a temporary lease to enable the business to utilize the space in advance of a permanent lease, which was approved at the September 28th, 2021 regular session. Foundry Pop-Up intends to sign the permanent lease effective January 1st, 2022, in anticipation of the state grant funds through Project Restore. Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development will have rolling approvals of those grant applications beginning mid-November. Some key terms of the lease would be effective November 17th, 2021 through December 31st, 2021. Rent will be $0 during this period, and the utilities will be paid by the tenant, excluding water and sewer. Attached is a copy of the proposed temporary lease, and this would enable utilization of the space through the holiday season for the business and for the downtown.
I'm in.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
That's good.
Okay, I will bring this back at special session next week for approval.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Chris, you're up.
What are you waiting for an invitation? What the heck?
Last night, they were not getting it. All right, so first up, we're going to go ahead and review some updates to the farmers market guidelines that we have proposed. These updates were made necessary due to the listing of the 25 West Church Street property under the CNS process. These updates are primarily administrative, but they help to provide clarity that the city will provide at least 30 days' notice for any vendor to vacate the property if the city decides to suspend or discontinue the farmers market. This is to help provide a actual reasonable notice period for any vendors so that they are not caught off guard and not told that they have to vacate within 24 or a week, 24 hours or a week or anything like that. The 30-day buffer helps with that. And then, once again, the administrative changes lets us go ahead and operate the farmers market a little bit more flexible moving forward.
I'm good.
I'm good. Good.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys just both stand up here. Oh, like, what's going on? Chair.
All right, incentive review.
Yep. So moving right along with that, DCED would also like to review a proposed incentive program for the farmers market vendors in case they might want to establish more permanent commercial space within the city. We're looking to get any kind of input from the mayor and city council regarding the terms and conditions that we have proposed for this. This would be a $1,500 incentive program for any current vendor, provided that they execute a lease with the landlord within 120 days of receiving a notice to vacate the property. A lease space must reside within the city of Hagerstown's corporate limits. Must be a lease with at least 12 months as part of their terms, and any kind of payment will be made directly to the business itself to assist with any kind of costs associated with rent or moving or utilities or anything along those natures. The incentive itself would only become available pending the sale of the market house becoming imminent and the notice of vacant actually being provided to the farmers market vendors itself. And we'd be seeking to fund this program via the Department of Community and Economic Development's Economic Incentive Line Item Program.
Is there any way, because I know that some of the concerns about the farmer's market is obviously the food vendors that are there, Jeff and Debbie's, Mama D's. Would it be possible to consider adding like food truck possibilities here to, I mean, I don't know how we could regulate the city food truck being in the city, but,
Yes. So our micro grant program, which we just began utilizing through Cdbg earlier this year, actually enables a roving business that's operating 2/3 of the time inside the city limits to receive funding. We could probably include language similar nature to that.
okay, that's good.
And to also tap into that, we also have our regular Invest Hagerstown incentive program, such as our citywide program, that would also help with any kind of restaurant hoods that might need to be installed in a commercial space or anything like that, that restaurants might be looking to have done.
And the vendors, and you're speaking to all of the vendors, like directly, not just email, like, but going in and making sure that this is a big thing,
Correct.
so.
Kathleen has already provided some basic information ahead of last Saturday, actually, once everything became public. Gave it just a couple basic information, not everything that you have in your packet in front of you. And we'll be providing some more follow-up information as well, both in verbal as well as paper documented form for them.
Yeah, we'll include it in multiple touch points to make
Okay.
sure that everybody's aware.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a
Whatever's
sensitive
appropriate.
subject,
Yeah.
so,
Yes.
I think,
So
just a little bit.
if you're wanting to include food trucks, with your understanding now, we would like council support for the additional food trucks as an administrative change to the approval for next week to just give us some time to work on that language.
Are you guys okay with that?
Yeah.
Just another option,
Mhm.
Yep.
cool.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. All right, request to purchase 25 West Church Street.
All right, and then moving right on from there. So we have received a purchase offer for the 25 West Church Street property, which was listed under the competitive negotiated sale process last October 20th, 2020. This is the first offer that has moved forward into a viable application for this. And Mr. David Blackman of Marketplace LLC has submitted a purchase offer which entails buying the building itself for $1 and buying the accompanying parking lot for $400,000 over a 5-year period. The Hagerstown Fire Department will enter into a lease for 24 months from the date of settlement at a rate of $1 annually, with consideration for extension if mutually agreed upon. We also have a 5-year right of refusal for the building itself, based on the condition of them purchasing the property at the building itself at $1. So if whatever reason within that 5-year period, they are trying to sell the building itself or anything that comes up in there, in that time frame, we have the ability to buy that property back at that $1 amount. The proposed use of the property by Marketplace LLC would be to hold the building itself long-term and put in a brewery, distillery, winery, as well as a community-based entertainment district for the area.
And just some additional information about 25 West Church Street. It's a 22,000 square foot commercial property. Currently, it's occupied by the Hagerstown Fire Department operations and the city farmers market for the vendors. The property is managed and maintained within the city's general funds, and there is a lease on the property with USPS for 74 spots, which expires February 28th, with the option to renew for an additional year over the next 5 years. Some additional information about the applicants. The application was submitted by David Blackman, who is the owner of Smoketown Brewing Station. Smoketown Brewing Station currently owns a brewery in Frederick and leases space in Frederick for their 2 operation entities that began in 2015. 25 West Church Street will be known as Hub City Brewing, leased under Marketplace LLC's entity. In addition to the brewery, there's going to be a cidery and winery and a distillery. Capital investment on the property is expected to exceed $1 million. David Blackman anticipates there to be 12 full-time employees and an additional 20 part-time employees operating in the building at full capacity. And Hub City Brewing is seeking to create a community-based entertainment utilizing the parking lots and including festivals, movie nights, car shows, and other events. Included in your packet is the CNS application, the draft motion, ordinance, and there is some updates to the purchase agreement, which is in draft form. Some of the changes that are being made to the purchase agreement will be made ahead of next week's meeting. So the changes are going to be related to the examination period, including clarification language related to the 60-day study period, inspection and right to entry related to the 60-day study period, the time frame for the terms of payments, and the mutually agreed upon date at closing. Any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Any questions?
Okay, we will proceed with bringing this as an introduction to ordinance at next week's special session.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
City Administrator.
Just one thing, just to remind everyone that Thursday's Veterans Day, and city offices will be closed, back open on Friday. Is that correct?
Nothing.
Kristen. Yeah. Bob?
Yeah, just, I would like to thank and honor those veterans who have passed on and those still alive. Thank you very much for your service to this great nation. And you know, it's no secret, and it's been in the paper, that we're having a problem when it comes to qualified individuals for our police department. I mean, whether it's, you know, when I know we've been trying to address this issue. We just addressed it last week and hopefully move forward as contract negotiations begin and we can address other issues that may be of concern, which are why people are leaving. But, you know, the problem is, the bottom line, people don't quit jobs, they quit people. And hopefully, we can get it together so that everything clicks on all 8 cylinders. And I think if we focus on that, we'll get there. And hopefully we can recruit and retain qualified people to serve our citizens. That's it.
I don't have anything.
All right. Well, I echo the comments about our veterans. Thank you for your service, past and present. And today is my daughter's 14th birthday, so everyone wish Layla a happy 14th birthday and pray for her mother, please. And,
Happy birthday.
Well, we'll wish
Still
Kayla
cleaning
happy
up the
14th
neighborhood from the
birthday.
party.
You deserve it.
Don't care about it.
No.
Yeah, I'll be all right.
Yeah, you'll be all right.
We're adjourned. Thank you, guys.